Okay, let's call court to order. Let's go back into regular session. It's 1:30. Want to go back to two items that we kind of left on hold that it won't take long to deal with. One is F2B. That's the McLennan County Library. I think we heard we had a discussion about it, and it appeared to me that we wanted to defer that for right now, or unless someone wants to have another discussion about it. Otherwise, we will come back to it.
Move to defer.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. The other one is F2C under the Public Health District. We received the corrected report or the additional information. And so we just need approval for recording purposes.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, Francis, you've got several reports to do today, so you want to introduce those?
Sure. So we have a couple other budget amendments we can clean up later, but for right now, we can go back to F2A, which is discussion on the 2023 budget. We have the Sheriff's Office with us here today, and they'll walk us through their operating request increases, as well as capital outlay, personnel. And then I know at the end, we can cover the item that's on the supplemental from yesterday as well, that deals with personnel.
Okay, and you can do it in any order, so.
Commissioners, Judge, how are y'all?
Fine, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
How are y'all?
Pretty good.
And we had passed out, of course, this is in the spreadsheet for each department, but just to make it easier, since there's a lot of them, we went ahead and just printed them, so your packet has all of the departments, starting with maintenance of equipment, and then just walking through chronologically.
And we would like, if the
Whatever
court
order.
would allow us to do so, to go over the issue that was on the supplemental agenda first,
Okay,
if that's okay.
fine.
I'm sure everyone saw the memorandum that Anna submitted for the
Yes.
court, and what I'm requesting, and I've talked to all of y'all, is to raise the jailer pay and the jail corporal pay 10%, and to have a $5,000 incentive pay. We wouldn't be budgeting that this year because it takes so long to hire people, and usually within 6 months, they have jailer school when you would first pay it out, and we feel like that'll be after October, so we wouldn't have to budget that this year. That would be for next year's budget. So what we're requesting is just that the jailers and the jail corporals raise 10% of their salary because of the problem we're having with hiring and sustaining staff. At the time that we did all this, we were down 52, which is approximately 20% of my workforce. And we're having major problems with overtime. My staff is being overworked, having to put in 100, 120 hours every 2 weeks. I mean, they're being compensated for the overtime, but you just get burnout. And this is safety and security. They work 12-hour shifts, 24 hours a day. And I've lost to a lot of agencies, police agencies, and recently juvenile got raises, and I've lost 2 so far to juvenile within the last month because of the raises, because their entry level is more than us and their supervisors are more than us. And I lost an entry level and I lost a supervisor to juvenile. So if the court has any questions, I mean, we have a lot of data that we can share, that we've shared with everyone, but if you need to know any more data that we have, we'd be glad to inform you.
I would say go ahead and continue with, go over the data that, even though we've seen it,
Okay.
kind of hit the high points on it, but one question is, what was the difference, when those folks transferred out of the jail to, juvenile? What was the difference in the pay in those? Were they lateral moves?
No, it was, our pay is 42,983,
983?
and theirs is 46.
Yeah, okay.
And then our supervisor pay is 49, and theirs is 50.
Okay, thank you.
And we discussed, I have 40 positions that I was going to give back. And the difference between the positions and what I'm asking for, we would be giving the court back $691,946 out of those 40 positions to raise the pay. It's already in my budget, these 40 positions are, and giving them back to, getting rid of them, basically, and covering these positions, because I had 52 open at the time, and it would help to hire and sustain what I have, because I'm losing them to a lot of different agencies. I mean, we've lost to Fort Worth, we've lost to Waco, Woodway, Belmead. Today was Harker Heights. I even lost one just because they're overworked. The drive, and they can't put in all the hours that we need them to put in. It's just too much work. So we've done a lot of moving of inmates. We tried to make it easier and have less staff that we can, and just with the amount of inmates that we had, that's a difficult task. So, but basically, that's it. He has a lot of
So,
data.
yeah, we'll go over some information. So we are the 7th largest jail in the state of Texas by inmate population. We are very close to the population of places like El Paso and Travis County. We are much closer to them than we are to, say, Brazos County or Hays County in population size for our jail. We went through and looked at some of these different facilities, what they offer, what they rate, what issues they have. And we are also one of the best facilities when we look at the budgets of Bell County, Brazos, Galveston, Hays, Jefferson, and Webb for just what we are spending and getting back for every tax dollar that we spend. So we are considerably more efficient, and that efficiency is due to the capacity that we have in our facility, which is more people in the facility, the more efficiently we use our tax dollars. But we can't do that when we're running off employees because they're tired of turning in 120-hour time cards. At some point, it's no longer worth the money, and people are just starting to quit just because we can't even give them the benefits that we are proposing that we can give them. So HR identified 3 things that the current generation in the workforce is looking for, and that is a flexible schedule, work from home opportunity, and money. We can't offer that to our detention staff. The flexible schedule that we used to be able to offer them, which was every other weekend off, starting day 1, which is a great deal for law enforcement, as some of y'all may know. We can't offer that anymore because they're getting called in for overtime. So even the minor benefit for that schedule that we were able to provide, we can no longer do when we're down 52 people. It's actually over 60 people now at the time that we initially pulled all this information. And we just need some assistance in getting applications because we are not getting the apps, and the apps that we are getting are not qualified. They do not meet the minimum standard. It is very difficult, and we're having a problem staffing our facility, and we need some assistance from the court. Is there anything else in particular that y'all would like to talk about?
And just to be clear, the across the board increase, that's the 2022 budget. In other words, you're requesting that now. And you're able to do it because of the positions that aren't filled, that were budgeted, right?
Correct.
All right. One thing, what do y'all see as far as, talk about some competition? How many counties well, I guess, I know in municipalities, they can offer bonuses and all, and, what are you hearing on bonuses? I know it's another discussion that.
So-
we're gonna get into.
Absolutely, sir. I've talked to 6 different facilities. I'll bring up a few of them. Some of them are local, some of them are not local. Our first challenge with that incentive hiring, I don't want to use the word bonus, but whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
Is determining how we can legally do that versus other municipalities and other county entities. So we checked with Bryan, we checked with Bear County, we checked with the city of Belmead, they're local. City of Waco has one as well. They don't even have a policy yet for theirs. Theirs is so new. It's just out there. Of all the policies that we looked at for these agencies, some of the agencies has stated that their administration of the policy, when I talk to some of these, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, these HR people, their administration of the policy made it a bad policy and made it not functional. So the ones that tended to have better luck with it, like Belmead, has surprisingly a really good implementation of how they do that policy. One agency had one where they were giving them half of the money 2 weeks into jail school, and then their other half 3 weeks after that, and they made them sign a legal document where if they quit within 4 years, they were the agency that said it was very ineffective for them. So what we are looking at doing from evaluating these other agencies and how they're doing and what is successful and who is not successful is tying it to 2 specific events for the staff. Those 2 specific events are going to be the graduation from the jail academy, which is a TCOL certified course. They get a license at that time that is provided to them for that graduation. It's tied to that event. And the second one would be upon the anniversary of their first year of service, which is very similar in a way to the way step pay works, but independent of that. But we do it with step pay by providing years of service and that amount of money that's tied to those years of service. So it would be very similar to that in the second step, or the second disbursement of that fund.
Step page
3,
3, 5,
5,
7.
Yeah, what we're
And
trying
this
to
is different,
do,
but it would be dispersed similarly.
Yeah.
After the first year of service, and then after graduation, so tied to event 1, tied to event 2. If they don't make it to event 2, they do not get that disbursement.
we're trying to get them in the 1 year down, because we're looking at what, 18 months?
Yeah. So once they get into that pipeline, Judge, we need to get them, that's where we're losing a lot of people, is before we can get them into the pipeline for promotional, for being eligible for promotions, eligible to go to the police academy, which of course a lot of people, especially these young folks, want to do. We need that next generation of police officer. But if we can't retain them until they've met the minimum expectation to be able to even apply for that, we need something to try and retain those personnel to at least keep them in the pipeline so that other opportunities can open up for them.
Statistically speaking, the ones that are leaving, are they leaving during that jailer training to the first year, or first year to second year to third year? Are there any numbers to show where they're falling out?
HR can provide that to you, but my understanding is that the majority of employees that we lose are less than 2 years.
Less than
The
2 years.
majority of employees. If you look at the average tenure for our jailer, just that one classification of job, our base employee, although I hate to call him base, out there at the facility, that average tenure is going to be sub 3 years.
How much?
Sub 3 years.
Sub 3, below 3 years. So we're not retaining them past 3.
In that position, we are not.
Yeah, jailer.
That is correct.
Those typically are people that aren't really looking at, the long-term benefits that we try to provide, which is, a good retirement, health benefits and all those. Those are more short-term thinkers, and that's the highest turnover generally.
And Judge, you're right. That comes back to discussions we've had with HR where they've identified those 3 things that these younger people in the job market, who we are certainly targeting. This is younger folks. This is a young man's game.
Yeah.
And we are targeting those folks to make sure that we can get the maximum retention. And when those 3 things that they're looking for are flexible schedule, work from home, and money.
We've also lowered our qualifications for, like, our corporal, the next position. We've lowered it to 12 months. It used to be, I think, 2 years, and we lowered it to 12 months to try to keep them here, to give them the opportunity to.
Facilitate
And
that
then 18
pipeline.
months for peace officer school, so that's kind of in between the 1 and 3, where we try to retain them to keep them here, so. But getting them hired is a main thing, and our salary is just not competitive with anyone that, like with juvenile, I mean, juvenile is just, amazes me they got that big of a raise. And I called juvenile today and asked them if they've been getting applications, and she said, yeah, their applications have increased. And they're still short people, but they've only had their raise maybe a month, is that what we were told? And so they're still short people, but they are getting more apps since they've raised their pay.
Where are you on your jailer to inmate ratio?
Are we keeping within the standards?
In regards to the
Standard.
The jail
jail
standards,
standards.
yeah, we are keeping, that has to do with the overtime. We're keeping within standards. We've not been below standards.
right.
Yeah, that's where the overtime's coming in. I have 2 examples of just yesterday, or the 4th and the 5th. We had to call in 11 on both those days. Those are people we had to call in for overtime,
Per shift.
per shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we are keeping within our standards.
So
because
without that, you think you would be out of standard?
we might be, it gets close, yeah.
So you have a problem,
A major
okay?
problem, yes.
I threw something out the other day and I rethought it, and I'm gonna ask again. The reason there's a little bit of reluctance here is we're looking at a COLA that we haven't looked at. I don't know if the court's ever looked at something that big, okay? And that's global. It sounds to me like you're saying I need help in the first few years. I asked you guys the other, what if the bonus went from 5,000 to 7,500 and you move the first step up, where they get a 1 year and a 2 year, and they get a step after 2? You're increasing their pay early on.
Just leave the 5 and the 7 and move it to a 2 instead of a 3? I hadn't even considered doing that. I mean,
I'm just looking for ways to get more money early on
right,
without us having to.
yeah. I don't know if that won't help me with hiring. I don't know if it will with retaining them. I can't answer that question. I mean, I feel like 2 or 3, it really, I don't see the difference. But getting the hiring with the salary that we have is a major problem. Retention is a problem, but I need to get people hired in these 52 positions, first off. I mean, that's where I'm coming at with the.
Well, if you bump the bonus up a bit, they're gonna make more in that first year.
Yeah, I
than
don't
they
think
would
it'll
with the-
sustain them or help them. I don't think that'll work, no. I don't. I mean, just personally, my opinion. That's what you're asking me.
We certainly like the bonus for trying to be that attractive offer
Yeah.
that's competitive with a lot of local and non-local agencies that are doing that. But we have got to get those people into a sustainable career. And like the judge said, some of these people, they're just looking for the zeros and cents on the end of a paycheck. They don't care about the benefits. They don't care about the retirement system, which is great at the county. County takes very good care of people in that regard. But this younger crowd, they just want the zeros on the paycheck is all they want. And being able to provide them with, $7,500 in that initial, how are we going to, we do get them in the pipeline. I mean, I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I understand it, but I don't think it'll help right now with the hiring of them in the beginning. Because they're going for the higher salaries. That's what they're going for. And with juvenile higher, they're $4,000 higher than us. They're gonna go to juvenile. I'm gonna lose them all to them because their starting salary is almost 4,000 more for just a basic with what my salary is now.
And I do get the county's stance in that offering the initial hiring bonus is ultimately more beneficial for the county because they don't have the recurring costs from year to year that they have that's associated with salary. And it would probably help with the initial glance, but then I'd hate to start losing people after 12 months, 18 months and saying, well, now I've got those bonuses, I'm gonna go work over here for another $5,000 a year at juvenile. And then God forbid juvenile starts
Please
offering a
understand,
bonus.
what we're trying to figure out is what makes this work, not just for y'all, because you aren't the only ones that are saying we got a problem. We've got a lot of folks around here losing people, and we've got, this is not an easy call by any stretch of the imagination when you're looking at, with what you're requesting and what we could be looking at, if people would get 20% pay increases, that's a hard sell.
Well, I mean, I understand that, you know, it's countywide, but our business is safety and security and 24/7. We, you know, you can't compare my jailers or the jailers, all the jailers in the jail to the clerk who works Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. There's a difference in the job that they do. And
I understand that as well, but not to them.
I know,
So-
I understand them, their way of thinking it, but I mean, these employees are working, you know, 14 days every 2 weeks, 120 hours, and just keeping them sustained, that's just not something that I can do, because I'm killing them, and I know I am. So, they need release.
Let me see if I can wrap my head around these numbers again, Pam, David. You're close to being 60 people down,
Yes.
but then you said you're gonna give back 40 positions?
Okay, we're close to being 100 down.
Yes.
That's not counting 40. The 60 I'm down are my employees that, to sustain what I have for the
Okay,
jail.
so-
40 of those 90, almost 100,
Yeah.
have not been filled in several years.
Yeah, well, they
And
were
then
given
there's-
to us last year.
and then
They're
there's 50.
budgeted for, but they're not
Yes.
being filled?
Right.
Right.
So that's the 40 we're talking about.
That's not even counting the 52 to 60 I'm down. That doesn't count that.
So how many are you looking to hire?
The 52 I'm down.
52, those are the ones you need to
The
replace.
Yes.
slots that we're proposing, giving back to y'all at the court are slots 1512 through 1551.
Those are slots that were given to us last year.
That is 40 slots.
12 through 15.
And of course, Commissioner, at the time of this document, when we pulled all this data, that was 40 slots, 1512 through 1551, with 52 actual vacancies that we do need filled. The 40
52.
we do not.
Yes.
And that's-
Not
is
feasibly
that-
fill those 40
Is
slots.
that spread out pretty much between all the shifts, or you?
Yeah,
In
we have
facilities.
to keep them maintained. We have to manage how many we have missing on each shift.
We are payroll statusing people almost every single
Moving them
day to
from jail
balance
to
the
jail
personnel
and-
between the facilities as people quit and come on.
Yeah,
It's a constant fight with that.
yes.
Is there a, have y'all crunched numbers on what the cost is? Do we have a,
Yes, so, and I believe those same numbers y'all were.
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah,
were
I
talking about.
have.
Let me
It's
pull
in
it
our-
up.
It's right here. The one you sent us.
Yes, that was right. So the cost of adding 10% to all of those positions are asking, with fringes, taxes, benefits, it would be 1.7 million. I can give you the exact number if you want, but
okay,
1.7 million. And then an estimate of what that starting salary incentive would be is $337,500 for the first year.
that's going from 42,983 to,
No, that's the $5,000 that
Yeah.
would be.
Oh, but the salaries
Yes.
would go from 42,983 to 47,281
Yes.
So two matters, that first one being the 10%, the second one being the,
incentive.
yes.
okay, that's adding those two together to get to that point. And then the corporal's 46. and some change,
54, 424,
54,
424. They make 49. Corporals do. Corporals make 49.
yes, okay, that's right, yeah, okay, I was putting it in the wrong place, 54.
I don't know if that would help to.
Does that throw any of the other positions out of kilter?
No,
Relation,
there's a big gap between corporal and sergeants.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It
So
will,
it won't.
it will squeeze it, but it's not.
It'll
gonna-
make it a little closer, but not a big amount, so.
Erasing our email.
Do you want this, Francis?
She's got it in Excel format.
Judge,
I heard somebody.
I know.
Aye, yes.
yes, I can't, well, it's saying mute that I don't know what I heard
Turn him up.
I heard incentive, added to the 10%. What incentive is that?
No, the incentive is the 5,000 we discussed.
Well, you can't, okay, the $5,000, is that that's a starting bonus for, I mean, is that a signing bonus for new ones, or are you adding a $5,000 bonus for all the jailers
thank
and all
you.
the corporate?
Mike, I think what they were talking about was 2,500 after they finish jailer school, and 2,500 when they complete the first year of service with the county, for a total
Okay.
of 5,000.
That is
Well, I
correct.
understand that, but I thought I just heard that was gonna go on top of the 10% for,
No.
it'll go on top of the 10% for just those people though, not for everybody.
Just for the new hires.
Just for new hires.
There it is.
So those were those numbers you were asking about. I just thought it might help just to see them up close, but those are, again, all inclusive of what, if all of those positions were filled, what the 10% looks like. Is that top number 1.7? The blue numbers are the two.
Understand on the bonuses that they have to be prospective only. So, for example, right now, people that are already in the jailer school, they've been, essentially hired subject to make it through jailer school. They wouldn't be able to participate because it would be a retroactive benefit.
Right, the HR has stated that if the people that were hired in the last 24 months would not be eligible.
And that
Okay.
is commiserate to what Bear County and another county are doing.
Okay.
So the 40 positions that are going to remain unfilled what does that translate, where is that, is that
So
the
it's
bottom
the
line
bottom yellow highlight, that would be, that's the total cost,
of the 40?
Of the 40 that they're talking about.
That are budgeted?
correct.
They're
Your
budgeted,
current positions that are budgeted right now.
that's just under 3?
2.4 million.
Yeah, 2.4.
2.3, okay, 2.4, okay. So when you add the 5,000 to those positions that are needed with the 10% increase, what is that, where is that number?
$2,038,645.
It's $691,000 less than the 2.393.
That is excluding the incentive though, the start.
Oh, yeah, because the incentive, we're not asking
It's its own
for.
line.
Yeah, it'll happen next year, because we wouldn't need it this year. In this budget year, it would be in next budget year.
We can't, if someone were hired today, we couldn't get them onboarded
In Jello
in a
School.
job and graduated from jailer school before October 1st.
Right.
It could not happen.
So
The
it
timeframe
would
is not.
start
So we're talking about strictly
FY '23 on
1.7.
that
10%
specific-
versus current,
Right,
the 40 positions.
All right.
right.
So we don't get them mixed up. It's just 10% for the jailers and the corporals across the board, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions?
Well, my initial response is that we've got to do something to curtail the loss of personnel out of the jail. If this is the answer, bite the bullet and go on. But, I know we're in discussion right now, so I assume we're just,
Yeah, right.
okay.
Now, so real quick, How much is juvenile, what's their starting pay at?
They are budgeted for $46,000 for their slot. And I believe it's
50 for-
50,
It's
50, yeah, 50.
So 46,000 for a supervision officer, 58,000 for what they call a detention manager, and then 52,000 for a detention shift supervisor.
which is our corporal.
Corporal.
Okay.
Their equivalent to our corporal makes what?
About 52. I
52?
believe is what Francis said.
That's a
52?
shift supervisor.
52.
And what about the, just the starting position at juvenile?
46,000 is the new
46.
amount, yes.
Which is almost a little more than $3,000 more than our starting jailer.
Yes, 42,983 is our current starting salary.
Since it hadn't been that long since they've implemented that, but have they had any more turnover? Did
So-
they-
I didn't ask about turnover. I asked about their hiring, if they got more acts, and she stated yes, they do. And they have been getting more since they raised the pay.
Anna said that.
No, I talked to the lady at juvenile,
I have a comment on that if I
Oh,
can interrupt.
yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So-
Donna.
Okay. So the recent applications received for juvenile supervision officers were with the old salary posted. We're working on updating the current posting with the new salary. So any applications received were based on the old salary thus far. And then Commissioner Smith, I believe, asked a question related to the tenure of the jailers leaving recently. And so that figure, since January 1st of this year, all separations or employees exiting, the total amount leaving is 46, and 14 of those employees had a start date of 2021, January 1st, 2021, or earlier, or more recent than that, sorry. So 2021 is to 2022 start dates, 14 of those exiting had those recent start dates of the 46 that have left. I hope that made sense. I feel like I jumbled all my words together.
So that's close to what, 33% or somewhere in that neighborhood, excess?
Turnover.
Right, 30%.
I was close.
I just wanted to answer those questions.
But there's no doubt we lost some of our jailers to juvenile. We know that, statistically speaking.
Recently.
Now, when you were,
Turn your mic down.
Yes.
you're doing
when they were leaving for the pay, were you thinking they were leaving for the increased pay or they were leaving for the
They,
current
they
pay?
indicated it was the increased pay,
Although
is
it's
what
not.
they told us,
Okay.
that they're getting the increased
They
pay.
said we're getting more money.
But they're not yet, I guess. Or
I think
else
it's
they just
already
haven't
budgeted.
updated the-
Are they getting the increased pay, the ones that left in the last few weeks, Anna? Or-
So, right, it's already budgeted, but whoever's recently applied, and I think the last applicant we have is June 28th, they would have applied with the old salary posted,
But they
not the
they-
new
but-
increased budget.
But they're aware of the increase, very likely from juvenile. Wouldn't that be correct, Anna?
Now, if they've been contacted by juvenile as an applicant, they would. But the initial application would have been based on the old salary.
So when did the juvenile get the raise?
It was, I guess about 3 weeks ago was the juvenile board meeting, but I think it was made effective immediately. I can get the answer for you real quick.
I was not there.
I think the effective date was the start of this pay period, current pay period, right, Francis?
Yes, for current, yes, yes, I guess we did make it effective the first day of the pay period, so that would have been,
Monday.
The 26th,
Thank you.
June 26th.
And y'all are wanting this, essentially the same thing to make, this to take effect immediately
Yes.
and for the remainder of the 22 budget.
Correct, sir.
Well, it would carry over into the 23 budget too, and possibly increase, but once you add it to it, that you can't, this isn't a one-time salary increase.
Right.
And the amount it's showing is the open slots. That's not the amount that, of my filled slots. Those are all my open slots. The 1.7 is the total amount for all the open slots, all my slots. So 52 of them aren't, doesn't have anyone in it, so.
So Pam, you're saying that the positions you're giving up will pay for this raise?
Yes.
And even with this change, chance of you filling all 53 or so of those
In this budget year.
positions, well, I don't think there's a chance
In the next few years,
Yeah.
it may take me.
I'm just questioning whether it would be next year, and, but, nevertheless, we want to.
Try.
It's not a short-term problem,
Right. That's true.
so. We want to do something that makes sense in the longer run. And how we approach, how we understand what, COLA needs to be to offset, cost of living that people have, is a big part of the discussion that could affect that solution, if it's at a large level, could obviously be a part of a help for your situation, because it's really put there to retain employees all the way across, all 1,100
Right.
something employees that we have. In fact, Friday, I think, is when our COLA discussion starts, and of course, we use benchmarks and factors to establish those. But, so it may be that we need to take this discussion today into, all the way to Friday, and how that affects what we do there as well. And I wish I could give you an answer today. I don't know that we have enough information to do it. I mean, y'all are providing good information. We've got to look at the whole picture, where we're gonna pay for it. But I do think that, we're gonna do something significant.
Yeah, I understand the COLA and what's happening with the COLA, but this problem is an immediate problem that I need
Right.
to, because if I don't, I'm gonna have to do other things to relieve my stress, because I can't keep going.
And it's not like that we never done the sheriff office separate. As we did with the incentive pay, we treated the sheriff's office differently and did a step pay plan for them. So it's not been where our sheriff's employees have been treated exactly the same as the rest of the employees. We've had differences.
So you're saying, Mike, the precedent is there to make decisions based solely on the needs of SO, as opposed to not totally disregarding the remainder of our county employees, but to set up something separate and apart from the pay structure for everyone else.
Right, but for example, if we're having, the COLA is gonna apply to everyone across the board, but
Right.
if part of that determination was to maybe give some sort of retention payment to other employees, you could cut that out for sheriff's office employees. You could say, we've given a 10% raise, we're not doing that part for the sheriff's office. So, you know, it's one of those where you can, you kind of can do the à la carte thing, because we have got them sort of on a separate pay schedule.
And when I put this proposal together, David and I, it was so that it wouldn't cost the taxpayers any more money. It was what has already been our budget. That would have been there next year and the years to come if I didn't decide that we didn't need those 40 positions. And so it's not a burden on the taxpayers when it's already in our budget. And that's why we decided that we could do this, and we had the data to back it up to help with the hiring and retention that we were losing so many employees from. So that's why we moved forward as trying to get it done now, because we weren't going to burden the taxpayers with any more money for the sheriff's office.
And I wanted to get a clarification. So the 52 positions would stay intact?
Yes,
And then the 40 positions, the 2.3
yes,
at the bottom, of that, 1.7 would fund this initiative, and then the balance from that would go back to the general fund?
yes.
Okay.
So, and Major, with regards to your comment affecting the taxpayer, that's exactly why I'm wanting to slow this down a little bit, for the same purpose you are, but through a different lens. Because we're trying to go to the no new revenue rate, because people cannot afford any more taxes.
Right.
But we also know we've got a big COLA coming, and we've got the regular budget and the increases that always come with that. And so if COLA and pay raises cause us to go above the no new revenue rate, I could never vote for that, because that's not taking care of the taxpayer. And so I'm trying to figure out how we get to the end, and what does it look like. I'm not here today saying no, but I'm here saying I don't know enough about how the entire budget's gonna play, that I'm comfortable that we could stay at the no new revenue rate.
Well, my question is, if I didn't bring this proposal without these 40, giving up these 40 positions, you would still have the same question. Isn't that correct?
Well, and probably another one too, coming and wanting to know, can we have the 40 back?
Right.
So,
Well, I
but
mean,
I'm
I've
saying-
identified that we do not need those 40 positions. That's correct.
But what if we get another influx of federal inmates? or something?
They will only give them to us if I request them.
Yep. We
They
do not have the
try,
staff.
yeah, they try, and I would have to approve for them to do it, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't have the staff.
So really, I think what we're most concerned about is a double up here.
Is it like-
A 10% this year, and then a
Whatever
10
the
or,
COLA
and
is.
then a 10 or 11% COLA. And
Then you're gonna have
that's a-
COLA.
That's a big bill.
It's 10%
Yeah.
plus COLA, then that gets you into next year. So that could be either, or a combination, way to, part of that COLA and part of it, some kind of, one-time thing. And then next
Yeah.
year, analyze it to the CPI, did we over, or under the, in the meantime, the employee doesn't get hurt because they're gonna get the money. They're either gonna get it in a COLA, or they're gonna get like we did when we did the missed check. We had to, when we changed to paying every 2 weeks and every day a week that
Yeah.
gonna miss, and so we had a reason, excuse to make a one-time payment to everybody that had a little windfall. That could be part of the solution too. And so, obviously what we'd like to achieve is to take care of the taxpayers, but keep our employees employed to the level that we need to. And so every one of these discussions and percentages are millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And so we're trying to not take a shotgun approach, but a rifle approach. And I thought that'd be a good analogy for law enforcement.
I'm not,
Try to fix it all.
Well,
I don't know whether we can fix it all, but I'd like to try to see if we can.
So in October, then, the jailer would be making,
Be making, add,
On which,
$200 to,
$50,600.
if you give them the COLA that,
if you were, yeah, what estimate we're using for COLA?
well.
That was 10% COLA.
That was a 10%. But the 10% being across the board, the discrepancy or the disparity remains. So if
Yeah.
everybody gets a 10%, there's still that disparity between a starting jailer and
Well,
a
we're-
juvenile.
Not if we add it first.
yeah.
If we
and
add
there-
if we add the 10% first, then put the COLA, then next year they're 10% better off, over and above the COLA.
Yeah,
So it does fix
But I'm
it.
saying if we weren't fooling with that requested 10%, and we were strictly saying everybody's gonna get a 10% COLA.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything to narrow that gap.
Right. We didn't.
Well, you may have outside of here, you not necessarily, that didn't help inside with regards to juvenile or this. Cause I don't know that everybody else, I haven't heard anybody else talking about what was proposed with
Well,
regards to
two
code.
things, Ben. I think, one, is you have to keep what is the market rate for a position separate from what is a transitory COLA payment that's only for 1 year. And then secondly, if the market rate change is going to result in taking away 40 positions that you otherwise have to budget for, that sounds like a fairly good deal for the taxpayer.
And Commissioner.
Agreed.
Perry, if you think about we understand the 10%, and then certainly, we've heard rumors of COLA, but we are not in charge of that by any means, but we understand that it's an issue. And you'll see that there is some gap in there between what is coming back to the county and what we're asking for the county that would help alleviate that initial burden in that first fiscal year if that large COLA is applied to those initial jailers. So there is some money left.
And I'm seeing that. Again, understand, I need to see the final number. It was Commissioner Smith saying, well, let's just bite the bullet, but we need to know what bullet we're biting. I mean,
Whether it
that's.
be a 22
yeah.
or 357.
Right, we need to make sure, and I want to get more comfortable with where are we gonna go with the COLA? Because it could be up to, what was it, $6 million in and of itself. And then we've got retirees that are calling going, hey, it's killing us too. And theirs are most expensive if we give COLAs on that end of it, that's even higher than to the employees. So there's numbers out there that could crush our budget that I just want to be cognizant of and make sure that we can manage them.
I have another issue if we don't get relief pretty soon is the federals. I'm gonna have to deal with federals because of my shortage on employees and burning out my employees. And that's one thing I don't wanna do is cut the federals that I have now because we're making a lot of money. And we're gonna be making more in the future because our contract will go up in the near future. And I don't want to, but if I can't get the staffing to I have 368 feds right now. And if I don't have the staffing to take care of the feds, then I have to consider that federal contract to get my numbers down so I can alleviate my staff. And that's something I do not want to do because I know what's happening with the feds and I know the money that's being made by the feds.
You're
So
talking about they could go up to as high as 100.
109 is what David's looking
So-
at right now. So
The realistic goal
That's
too is when you
$25 more
when you
dollars.
think about what gets cut from the feds to be able to accommodate, it sounds like such a small number, but it's not small to the people who are getting that time off once again. She is talking about cutting 2 people from each shift, that's 96 inmates. And if you can multiply 96 times $84.12 per day per inmate, it's a lot of money.
yeah, I mean, that's what I would begin with to try to alleviate on my staff. And we're looking at everything we can to help our staff. We have moving inmates, we have done a lot of stuff trying to alleviate the problem with the staffing. Because calling 11 to 15 people in a day is terrible.
When will we have the numbers we need to be able to give the answer that they want to hear, one way or the other? What numbers are we lacking? We're lacking,
We have COLA discussion Friday.
yeah, we have COLA discussion.
That's the main one.
And revenue side. When will we lock in tax value,
Certified values.
certified
So
value?
certified values, the deadline for us to receive them is July 25th. But of course, we'll get updates through that date. So, constantly that number's being updated daily as protests go one way or the other. And so we can of course get an estimate of what that is at any time. But I think, what you're asking, our goal is that before Friday's out, that you will have heard all of the requests. You can see it all in front of you. You know what the recommendation is for a COLA. You know what new personnel has been requested. So that's where we can start, playing with all those different pieces, how they fit together and how they work with a tax rate, where you want to end up at the end of the day. Is that answering your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to be able to give these people an answer. I'm just curious about when that would be.
I mean, yeah, so again, I think through the day Friday, we'll have heard all of the,
But if we
Requested
don't, just
recommendations.
everybody understand, if we don't take action today, then it goes to the next the next Commissioners Court meeting, which is 19th. Because it can't be on the agenda for action at the end of this week.
To meet the 72-hour, so everything else the rest of this week.
Dustin, isn't that
It's
correct?
workshop.
That's right. It's workshops. We're on the same agenda we were on yesterday. So if it gets deferred today, the quickest would be, with court not meeting next week, would be the July 19th meeting.
I don't know, and just to kind of put some numbers together with what you were talking about, talking about housing prisoners at Jack Harwell. Our estimate for next year, revenue-wise, is 4.5 million, just based on what is currently happening. Of course, that changes. If that changes up or down quickly, then that number changes. But just based on what's happening now, that is the revenue that we're estimating for next year, very similar to this year.
Yeah, but he's gonna get it raised. I mean, it'll be raised, we're just not
Oh,
sure.
yes, it just kind of, you were talking about.
At the 8412,
Yeah,
yeah.
the total amount of.
Oh, that's the 90
21,
98?
That's
not-
the number, that's the money that's coming back to us. So after the debt service is paid
Oh, okay.
Right.
on the
okay.
building, all of those things happen, then that's
Okay.
what we're booking as
The
revenue.
total
in general
revenue,
fund.
Commissioner, that we billed the feds for and that they paid to us is approximately $9.9 million in FY '21. That is before they pay the bills.
And that's before salaries are paid and everything?
No,
So-
that doesn't have to.
So the money that comes in through the PFC for the housing of prisoners, they bill, it comes in, we forward to our trustee. They have bills they pay for administration of the PFC, but mostly it's the debt service on the bond. And then whatever's left comes back to us as the operator to help cover our expenses, so,
It's 4.5 million a year.
I'm sorry.
4.5 million in a
Yes,
year
That's what we're estimating.
after you pay debt service.
Revenue.
Correct.
What other questions you want to? What's the opinion of the court?
Well, I've told you my inclination, Judge. I'd be inclined to support doing something to help. It's an immediate need, and it's obvious that there's a sucking sound going as far as our employees. But, I don't know if you want to
how you want that. I don't know if I don't know what the opinion is of everyone else on the court.
Well, I
We'll
think
just put it
I
out.
think the two issues are separate. I think what we have going on right now is separate from what we're gonna do next year. But we will take into effect, I will take in very close effect of what, if we do decide to do something today on Friday.
Sure.
You know, but I think they're both, you know, and we can accomplish, I think we can accomplish, I'm optimistic that we can, in looking at the numbers, the whole picture, we can get to where we want to be.
I have a question. I'm trying to grapple in my head. There's one thing with cost of living, and then things just go up, and so employees get a cost of living raise. There's another thing, if we're having an issue with this particular job, this particular, trying to get the word for it, this career path. Are we at market? Are we being competitive where we are so that we're not losing people who are working in this field? That's the word I'm trying to look for.
Yeah.
So I see them as different. Maybe Anna and Mike can tell me why they're not. But do we need to make these positions more competitive?
Yes.
So that we can attract people to this career? I see that different from keeping up with the price of things in COLA.
I think 52 positions down tells you pretty how well we're keeping up with it. So how competitive it is.
Okay, say that again, David.
I think 52 open slots shows you how competitive it is.
Okay, I want to be
It
more
also shows you-
scientific and
And-
finite.
And I get it, like, I understand. We have these 52 open slots. They've been open for quite some time. We're unable to fill. The jail's always cycled open slots. Y'all know that as well as we do. The jail always has open slots. At what point do we say, here's a real number that we need to fill, and we need the court's help to be able to make it attractive enough to put bodies in those positions and keep them there? And that is really what we're looking at and asking for today.
And that would be my question. So I guess, is that something, Anna, that maybe Friday, we need to look at that? Am I making sense?
You are, and that's a piece of the puzzle, and that's what I'm saying. There is no doubt there's a problem. There's no doubt we need to do what we can, but just saying, well, let's just do this today and we'll worry about everything else later. I can't do that from our perspective. I understand where they're coming from. I need more numbers, and I think Friday would be a good day. What is market? What does it look like if we did this today, and then what does a COLA look like with that, and then how does it all roll out? And I need to see that, so I know that we're not setting ourselves up with a blindfold on to raise
Right.
taxes.
Right.
So in the notes, there's a lot of information about that. So,
Are you talking about Anna's memo? Yeah.
Yeah,
and also, you know, you go and you look at different websites, and, you know, it shows that we are a little bit under what the average is. But
Pam, those 40 positions you're giving up, those will be budgeted, even though they're unfilled right now, those will be budgeted anyway,
we're not
right?
gonna re-budget those next year, right?
Now,
No.
in
they
fact,
don't want them.
just to kind of an FYI, one of the things that we were gonna look at going in is any department that has posted positions that haven't been filled in the last year or two, we were gonna start talking about pulling those out anyway, but, so I don't really look at, you know, we started saying you don't take this money and create something else with it. You create it on its own, let it stand on its own justification, not just because you have a pot of money over here. But I don't see we're looking at mentioned competition being juvenile. I think it's the whole general market out there.
I do too.
I think
That's
it's the
just
Amazons, I
local.
think
Yes.
and companies that are yet to come.
Yes.
And,
100%.
So whatever we do, we decide, if we decide on Friday what COLA is, everybody else working on COLA too. Everybody's either fighting to grow a workforce or to retain a workforce. And so there's information that, we're asking Anna to bring forward, so we can make that discussion determination. And I hated to put the decision off until the 19th, but I'm just worried about if we're gonna think of something, a different solution that's better maybe than what we're thinking of right now.
I just know.
That's the way I'm leaning.
Yeah, I just know that, like Commissioner Jones said, that this is a problem that's immediate. This is what I need fixed now to just sustain my employees that I have and to get employees hired. Because the minute a person is hired, they go in my account. That's one less person I have to call in.
Yeah.
And it can only help to do that. And, we need to raise these salaries to be to have competition with the other places. Amazon, Chick-fil-A is a competition. We lost someone to Chick-fil-A.
And even juvenile,
Juvenile's a big deal.
if you
'cause
look at
that's recent.
$46,000 versus what we're asking for these jailer positions, it's not like juvenile's paying 46 and we're asking for 52. They're paying 46, we're asking for 47 and change. It's a very small amount more than what they are giving at juvenile.
And do
it will
they get the
bring-
COLA? I'm just curious. Would they get the COLA?
Yes, they usually are consistent
Okay.
with what.
So their 46,000 is gonna get the COLA on top of it, so it'll,
Yeah. And
I was just curious.
it's always
I know
the challenge of making those adjustments right before we do budget, because then the
Yeah,
other
and see,
decision
I've-
that gets COLA pops right on top of it.
If I was aware of those 40 slots, I would have probably asked a month or two ago, because I've only been in the position since April 1st. And I'm just trying to help right now. That's my objective. I have to get people hired.
Is there any other questions that we need to get answered, or does y'all have any questions for Anna? She's online, or Dustin, or anyone else?
I think on Friday, maybe if Anna could kind of share with us what is market, are we competitive? Do we need to do something to that starting jailer salary? Do we need to do something to that corporal salary? To kind of explain why we're 92 positions down. If you think about the fact that we got the 40 and able to do some other things that we couldn't do because we couldn't fill the 40. So I think we do need to look at, are we being competitive with that jailer salary?
If I remember on the 40, Commissioner, though, that was, we thought there would be a return on that because they were thinking at the time there was gonna be an influx of feds.
Right.
And so we agreed thinking, well, we fund these, but the return will be greater than what it's costing us.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
And we can add to the feds anytime. They would add to us, our count. If we let them, they'd add. I mean, I just can't.
But we got to put bodies in those slots.
Yeah.
We have to have those 52 slots filled
Right.
before we can start generating more revenue for the taxpayer.
Anna, are you ready today to kind of speak to that, or your preference is Friday?
I can speak to the market competitiveness.
Okay.
Now just isolating that benchmark alone. So the overall county average for that is, when I'm talking about the market ratio, that's the number I assign between 0.8 and 1.2 to determine how it compares to our market salary. Countywide, the average is 0.95. For that benchmark alone, the jailer ratio for that benchmark is 0.99. So that I can speak to, but an overall picture of kind of turnover and for the jail, I have in the memo I've shared for the court item. So that turnover information is in the memo, and then just an overall picture of countywide competitiveness. I had planned to speak to that on Friday or whenever Francis calls me in.
Okay. And I read your memo, so I saw where you gave us the comp ratio for jailer positions, almost at a 1. And then I see where you say the turnover rate is at a 5-year high, and applications received in is at a 5-year low. So like I said, for me, it begs the question, what is there we can do to bring in applications? What she needs are applicants. She needs warm bodies, and for some reason, we're not getting warm bodies in that we're retaining. We're also having a problem with retention.
Qualified warm bodies.
That's part of the problem too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel your pain on that one.
yeah, yeah.
And I also understand why you're saying it would help if you knew something today.
Oh, yeah. Very much.
Well, I think being a jailer is a high-pressure situation. It's not the same as one person yelling at you at the department store because you didn't get clothes hung on the rack right and getting paid the same thing. It is a high-pressure position. If you've ever done a walkthrough out there, you wonder how people survive day in and day out. It's not an easy job. I'm thankful that we have people doing it. And I'm hopeful that we can figure out a way to get the number where we need to be and compensate those people for working in what I'd call a less than wonderful environment. Not exactly like being a lifeguard out on the beach. If it takes us going to Friday to get better numbers and then making a decision after that, so be it. If that's the thought from the court.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think definitely we've got to give some, I won't say immediate, because that'd be today, and evidently that's not the case, but we need to do something in the immediate future to solve this problem, whatever it is.
But what will a decision today do? What will that change, a decision today?
We have a job fair next Tuesday at the Texas Workforce. Is it Tuesday?
It changes
Tuesday, for just the Texas Workforce.
job
just
flyers,
says-
advertising,
We're
QR
gonna
codes that link to
do-
the job application, talking about that initial starting salary, sending that out via email listserv to other counties as far as we have
we're
open
gonna do a
positions and we
dump
have a
on
new salary. There's a lot it can do for us in the form of advertisement. And then we have to depend upon that salary to get bodies and slots.
Okay, it lets you,
42,983 and 52 slots. It's more than that now. It's in the 60s that are actually open now. 42,983 is not putting people in the slots.
so doing something today lets you get started sooner.
Right.
Yes. There is no immediate turnkey. This is going to be a fixed problem tomorrow. This is going to be a very different market for us, and it's going to be something that's going to take 6 months for partial implementation because it'll take that long just for the incentive bonus, whatever, to take effect for the first group of people to come on for that. And then for the salaries, of course, to get out, word to spread around, for us to advertise it, advocate for it, present it at the job fairs, and get
And to
people hired on.
retain the people I currently am. I'm losing people weekly. I mean, another one today to Harker Heights PD, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah. It
On a
would
daily
help
basis.
with the retention of employees.
Commissioner, we're not saying that we're going to compete with every entity in every market. Are we going to lose people to the city of Waco? Of course, we can't compete with their salary. But the people that we can compete with, we're just chipping off the edge a little bit to where that employee, when they hit that point, if we can keep them in that pipeline for 3 years with incentive, promotional aspects, and the academy or opportunities to go to the academy, then they feel more vested, they've gotten their first step, and now that pay difference is a little bit less. So now they feel a little bit more invested in the county to stay with the county. But that hits those people like we've talked about that are more career people. The people who are looking for the zeros on the end of the paycheck, that's not going to stop them from going and making 15 cents more an hour at wherever. But we want those quality, long-term employees. We want the legacy employees, like you've mentioned. Those people mean a lot to us. They drive our business, less and less over the years. But we would like to see the return to that, but we can't compete with a lot of these other local businesses that are not even law enforcement related.
Yep.
And some that are in the form of juvenile.
And we may get to Friday, just to be honest with you, what I need to see, I don't necessarily have a problem with this plan. If we can implement it, and then we can turn around and we can have a COLA discussion and implement it, and I can have a rough idea of what the budget looks like. And I get the feeling that we don't have to raise the tax rate from the no new revenue rate to do it, I'm in. But if we have to raise it, then I'm gonna start looking, where do we cut now? I'm gonna be pretty adamant about that. So I'm not saying I have a problem with your plan. I need to see, once we discuss the COLA, we discuss other people that have some positions they wanna talk about, because they can't keep people, and obviously we have to pay attention to that as well. But I've got to feel good that if we just sit here today and say we're good with this, and we end up having to bump the tax rate up a tad, that's poor planning on our part.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no intention of bumping a tax rate.
So I would prefer, if we could, I know it's not ideal for what you want to hear, if we have to call, if we get to Friday and we see we can do this, then we post. It's not like we can't post and come back here and have another meeting just to approve that. But I just want to see the numbers and get comfort in that before I jump on it.
I mean, Anna shared everything so far with us individually, maybe jumping out of line here. But, you know, if we do this and an 11% COLA, it's roughly $8.3 million. So, I don't, I've played with if our taxable value goes to 23.8 billion, which he's already published in a publication that the entire county, that for all counties to see. So I think it's a pretty good bet that we get to 23.8 billion. Yeah, I think we can do all that we want, and then, you know, pay for some bigger ticket items this year also too. So I made a spreadsheet yesterday evening. Looks like it gets us to where we want to be with nearly $5 million wiggle room. That includes going to the no new revenue rate. Actually, it's below the no new revenue rate.
Those are the things that we need to work out between now and then. And everybody have comfort with that.
Would we be able, Judge, to post like for next Friday? Given the fact some of us are at a training session next week early?
Yeah, we won't have a quorum until Friday. Yeah, sure, we could post prior to that to make a Friday 9 o'clock meeting.
What Commissioner Jones says makes a lot of sense, but I know we need to see it and, you know, see it right here, definite, and hear it from the auditor and our HR people. I think there's a need, absolutely. I think there's a need, and I think we've got to do something, and if it gets the concurrence of the court, if it takes to go to next Friday, I'd rather get it done than have to wait another 2 weeks, if that's what it takes for us to make a decision.
Just have to work a little faster on our end.
Yeah, let's work faster, let's work longer. I don't have a problem. You know, I guess, and maybe I'm not seeing things the way I need to, but it seems to me that by doing this, we're saving money, cutting the 40 positions. So the overall effect is, there's no effect on the budget by cutting 40 positions and giving the raise to the starting jailers and not even talking about the 5,000, where we've actually saved money, so that part of it I'm very comfortable with.
And that was my intent, to make it budget neutral, not to have to
I
spend
like,
any
I
more
like
money.
budget neutral.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the court?
I make a motion to defer.
Second?
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton, Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Terry.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. 4:45.
along with it to get something that's more substantial.
That is put back towards the bill,
I love that.
which is gonna be the best case.
Recording in progress.
Okay, let's call court back in session. It is 2:56. All right, Francis?
Okay, so we will go back now to item F2A, which is discussion on the 2023 budget. So again, talking with the sheriff's office, and they're going to review their operating request as well as capital outlay request for the upcoming year. I know I mentioned earlier, the handout includes all the departments he'll be covering. They're in the spreadsheet as well, of course.
Is that right here, 2,200, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so just on the front page, we'll start with, we'll just go in chronological order. So Department 0120 is the first department, maintenance of equipment.
Okay, okay.
All right, so starting off in Department 0120, that is maintenance of equipment. They are the people who do all of our fleet service for all of our vehicles as well as much more, maintenance and benefit. If you look at the supply line, we're going to ask for a reduction in that line. That is coming down from 42 to 33. That's $9,000 that we're pulling from that line. Furniture and equipment's remaining the same. Motor vehicle operation. As we go through the departments, I'll go ahead and drop the bombshell. You'll see an increase in every department for motor vehicle operating FOG, which is fuel. Costs have gone up. We have a very detailed methodology and a lot of data about fuel costs. If you'd like for us to go over it, I'd be more than happy to do so. And this is, I know it's going to be germane to other departments, but it's certainly applicable to all of ours as well. So,
But at some point, I would, because we're trying to understand, and I think y'all put a lot of study into it, so we want to try to learn from, your analysis, but you don't necessarily need to go over it right now, but I would like to understand it, because we have different departments that are dealing with fuel, oil, and gas, and we ought to be kind of consistent on it.
yeah, we did not take an approach where we looked at FOG and said, it's twice as expensive as it was last year, so let's multiply our budget times 2. That did not happen.
Okay.
So there's a lot of thought, and I'll get into that probably more appropriately in around Department 2200 because that's the majority of our FOG costs.
Okay.
So when we get to that department,
You'll have to break out your algebra skills for this.
yeah, it's a
He went into quite the detail, so.
it's a good one.
I'm not
I
very
don't know
good.
how else to look. Well, and we've coordinated with the auditor too, and that,
So this FOG does not include gas.
yes. That includes fuel, oil, gas, and bulk oil, if I'm not incorrect.
Because the note I have here is the increase in oil costs for oil changes.
Yes, but that also comes out of that line is their actual fuel, like fuel.
And that's just for that's just maintenance of equipment
Maintenance of
people.
equipment, though.
Correct.
Which is
A
how many employees?
I'm sorry?
How many employees?
That is 1, 2, 3, 4.
4, okay.
And the majority of that is going to be bulk oil. That is the oil that we are buying to do the oil changes in our
Right.
vehicles. That is the, of course, largest
That's the
portion.
note I have.
Yeah.
It's not what you have.
But yes, fuel is still purchased for those vehicles. Like they have their little transit van and Dodge truck, so that also pays for the fuel that goes into those vehicles.
Okay.
The next line, repair and maintenance. So we're asking for $19,200 increase in the repair and maintenance line. We have had a fairly large increase in the cost of parts, outside services that our shop cannot provide, alignments, major motor replacements, all those costs have gone up. So you will see an increase in that line. We are partially offsetting that line with the increase or decrease from our supply line. So we're trying to be as cognizant as we can about moving the money where we can. We're also moving the money from 619-102 and essentially zeroing that line out, not zeroing, but $1 that line out to help offset that increase in repair and maintenance. The next line is our radio tower. There has been an increase in the services for tower services, which is Luminaire, and also generator services, because there are more towers than there used to be. So with the addition of those towers, the addition of those services are included within that line. And I believe $6,600 is for tower services and the rest for generator services at those sites. Any questions?
And so the net within that department for operating increases and decreases is just a little over $35,000.
Okay? Any questions? All right.
All right, moving on to Department 2200.
Can I go back and ask one question? This may be an honor question. On your full-time employees, when I was looking at them, we have two positions.
We'll get there.
Okay, I was going, that discrepancy?
That's a separate discussion.
That's a separate discussion.
Yes, that will be a
Enough for
separate
me.
discussion towards the
All right.
end, yes. All right, is she on 2200? Okay, so Department 2200.
There we go.
We're asking for some additional money in supplies. First off the bat, one of the biggest items that we buy in our supply line item is ammunition for qualification. And that is the single largest big ticket item that comes from that line. The price of ammunition has gone up precipitously. And it's not just the cost, but the availability. Sometimes we just have to buy what we have to buy in order to meet the state statute for qualifications within the calendar year. That also includes taser supply costs, battery replacements for some of our APX 6000s, and just a general supply increase across the board for our Department 2200. Toners is another big issue for us. Furniture and equipment. We're asking for an increase in the furniture and equipment line to replace some broken chairs. Patrol is also asking for some AEDs for our patrol units, some of that life safety equipment, and then a RAP system, which is a security system for inmate transport of combative individuals. And those are the reflective changes for that specific line. Next one is fuel cost. All right. It is time to bite the bullet. Can I screen share, Haley?
Oh, excuse me.
All right. So we took every transaction that the sheriff's office has had over a period of several years. And we condensed that down into a monthly average fuel cost that we are actually filling up our vehicles for. This is not some bureau of whatever of energy. This is what the county is actually paying to fuel up the sheriff's office vehicles. The average price per gallon, as you can see across the chart here, has increased pretty precipitously from July of 2020 until now. The largest increase is going to range in this year. So you'll see the January, February, and then you'll see the slight downtick per gallon there. That is the strategic oil reserve. When that occurred, the price of fuel dropped for 30 days, and then it shot right back up. We just got the data from June, and the average price that we paid for a gallon of fuel was $4.48. And if you look at what we were paying back in 2020, that is a very large increase. So if you look at the numbers, if you don't want to see it in a chart, right, zoomed in on there on the side, that is the average amount that we are paying per gallon per month as the months pass via those timeframes that you see listed right up there. I can tell you that I don't know. I'm not an economist. I don't know what the commodity of fuel is going to do in the future, but I can tell you that that line is going up. And with
It's actually ticking down right now, so,
I think with the announcement of the possibility of the federal tax deal, that is probably going to cause some fluctuation, but you can see what it did, the Strategic Oil Reserve, we got 30 days of relief.
What is your average cost right now?
Average cost right now for us that we're paying in June was $4.48.
that's the highest, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I suspect that July will look a little better.
When you look from January of '21 to December of '21, the price of fuel increased approximately 47 or 42%, excuse me. Then from January to June of this year, it's done another 47.5%. So it's been very quick that fuel cost has gone up. One of the largest increases is, of course, in March after the drop off from the Strategic Oil Reserve, that rebound.
Well, you've been pretty conservative in your estimate here. I hope
very
that's true, but
I was
it
gonna
would
say,
surprise me, it wouldn't surprise me if
I've
it's
only
more.
increased your amount by 3%.
I'm very conservative with an asterisk.
Yeah,
That if things don't work out exactly like we think, we would like the ability to come back to the court. Of course, we have to have fuel to operate.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we're going to try to manage that to the best of our ability. And I think that we'll be close.
Well, and I do think we need to have a strategy in case our educated guess goes wrong. But I don't know the relation between, right now, between the cost of oil per barrel and the cost of gasoline. I mean, I know it's correlates, but, you gotta have refinery capacity too, but, oil has dropped off 20% from the high on oil. And that, it hadn't on fuel. And, some economists are talking that it could break as hard as 60%, but not all economists. And so I think we go ahead and take, a good approach to it, but have a backup in case, they're completely wrong and goes back to $120 a barrel and those kind of things. And maybe there, again, when we look at fuel, oil, and gas all the way across the county, road and bridge and everything else, that we have of course, road and bridge has a contingency, but that we make sure that because we don't want to make that phone call or y'all call us and say, we're gonna have to cut back patrol because fuel's too high. We're not going there.
Yeah, that would never happen. We would, of course, coordinate with y'all. And we're also taking into consideration some predictive models for the fuel cost based directly off what the county is paying.
Right.
Upper, lower, and median confidence level. So we're looking, I'm really hoping it stays on that bottom line that you see right there, but I'm not going to hold my breath because I have a feeling it's going to stay on that bottom line for about 1 month's tick, and then it's going to go back to that top line.
Could do it.
But that gives us an upper and lower confidence boundary of what we can plan for. We'll certainly coordinate with the court. If you look at the increase in our fuel costs, I'm certainly not asking for a lot in that, but we may need some help, and we'll come back to the court if that becomes the eventuality of it.
Okay.
Moving on from there. We're asking for us, let me unshare my screen. Hold on. Haley, so I can go back to you. All right. Next item is going to be cellular and radio. We're requesting a hotspot for our training division. Just one hotspot for training applications. Next line, centralized dispatch. The increase in that line is contractual. I will remind the court again, this is the last year that there is a structured step up in that contract. It needs to be completely renewed. This is the last step that's pre-mentioned in the contract for that centralized dispatch service before we have to go back to Waco with it. Next line is professional development. we're asking for $16,000. $6,000 of that is for specific training for individuals in our CID department, and 10,000 of that is for general training. Overall, right now, we only budget about $484 per deputy that we have within our division for training every year, and we're trying to get to a more sustainable rate where guys don't just take the TCOM mandated courses, but there's actually some career progression for those individuals as they go through our training pipeline, and it's certainly not a lot more. It's just enough to try and slowly get us to where we have some good career progression with our deputies. All right. Any questions?
On your ammo,
Yes.
which said was the largest part of supplies,
Yes, it is.
knowing how many people have to qualify and about how many rounds, do y'all go ahead and purchase that up front, try to get a bulk price?
We do.
Okay.
We purchase by the 18-wheeler from a company, and the issue we run into is that company is unable to deliver the quantity of ammo that we need.
Okay.
So in last year's, for instance, we had to wheel and deal with mom and pop shops all over the state, like literally driving around trying to pick up ammo from people. That actually happened because the availability just was not there.
Right.
And we have to meet the minimum standard for quals every year. So in those occasions, we don't get those good deals. We just have to pay whatever those people are asking at the time when we get our back shoved up against the wall. Of course, I hate it. I don't like it. But it's a necessary evil in some occasions. And even the direct manufacturers that we're dealing with or the large suppliers that we're dealing with now are going up because when they're having to freight that stuff to us, manufacturing, they're getting the parts, fuel costs are up, diesel's more expensive, and they're going to pass those costs along to us as a consumer. Any other questions? Moving on. All right. 2410, 2411, our two jail facilities. You'll see similarities amongst both of these departments. We're asking for an increase in supplies. The number one issue that we have in our jail facilities is that the cost of some of our inmate-related supplies and facility operationally related supplies have gone up. The number one thing, well, number one and number two, toilet paper, no pun intended, and nitrile gloves and protective equipment. So those are the two largest increases in our supply line, and they are the two largest quantity items that we purchase out there. We've got a lot of people that we're caring for 24/7. So, furniture and equipment. Last year we asked for $53,178. This year we're asking for a little bit more in furniture and equipment. In 2410, we are desperately trying to replace some radios. We were babying this system along to replace radios. The amount of radios that we have to finish it this upcoming year. Those radios that we were trying to baby along are end of life, broken, can't get parts, no one will repair them. So we've gone from babying along for the last 2 years and hoping to drag it out for another 2 to we need it all in this next year because we can no longer baby it out. We've babied it as long as we can and tried to tessellate that over the years. We can no longer do so. Motor vehicle fog, slight increase right there in the fog. You'll see a decrease in repair and maintenance. We review that line. It's historically underutilized. We're giving that money back to try and offset some of the increases that we have in the above lines for supplies and furnished equipment. It certainly doesn't offset 100% of it, but it offsets a very large chunk of it nonetheless. Next line, food services. That is a contractual increase that the court approved this year, and that is the change that we have to do in the budget to accommodate that for the FY23 budget. Any questions on that? All right, 2411, very similar. Supplies, tasers, gloves, toilet paper, slight increase there. We are removing $20,000 from repair and maintenance, and that's utilities, I don't care. From our repair and maintenance line. So when we originally set this facility up, we did our best, along with the auditor, to set that initial starting budget. Overall, it has been fantastic, and it has been very, very close. That line is underutilized and over budgeted. We're gonna get that $20,000 and give it back to the county to help offset some of those supply cost increases that we have. And then same thing, food services, it's the same 8.7% contractually approved by the court this year. This is the adjustment for it for next year within our budget. Any questions?
You have a 57,000 increase in utility, oh, that's food service.
Yeah, that's the food services contract, yes, sir.
Now, so the utilities is the one that, yeah, so.
That is increasing, but we don't assess that,
So
sir.
it's decreasing.
Yes, just based on trends, we dropped that some.
Okay.
That first, like he was saying, the estimates that were in there originally were before we took over the facility, not really knowing what it would be. So we're just adjusting that down a little.
All right, 2414. So there's some movement between the two medical departments, 2414 and 2415. You'll see pluses and minuses between those two departments, but overall on the operational side, you'll see that one department's going to increase by about 7.5%, and the other one's going to decrease by about 7.8%. So they're very offsetting. It's ultimately in the green for us. But we'll start going through the lines. Supplies. So we are reallocating the usage of the supplies between 2414 and 2415. There is an uneven split for the number of people that are being cared for, and we're trying to reallocate that more based on the patient care that is being delivered at each one of those facilities as though they were completely independent of one another. We're trying to do away with the sharing of resources, although it'll never completely go away, but to the extent that we can manage it. Furniture and equipment. They're asking for a couple of stretchers, 2 scanners, and a blood pressure monitor. We've utilized some real Amazon.com blood pressure machines, and they continue to break. We can no longer sustain them in a replacement cycle, so we want some, they're looking for a couple professional machines, commercial grade machines to wheel around to the wings to do the blood pressure checks on these people, which is one of the major things that our LV and CMAs do out there. Next, contract personnel. That is our MHMR contract. And then management services, you'll see an increase in the management services line. That is for Core Health. That was approved mid-year by the Commissioners Court, and this is the reflection of that adjustment and the increase in price. You will see an increase in price in the other facility as that management service is split between 2414 and 2415 respectively. Going over to 2415.
Hey, before you move from that one, do you want to talk about the overtime?
Oh, I do, you're right. So we have had an issue for years on our overtime within the department, 2414 and 2415. We have always underallocated and just basically transferred the money from FTE and one of the facilities the department is attached to. This is a real, as close as we can get, estimation with the help of the auditor to get a real value in there for what mandatory overtime is going to be in these departments, and that will exist in both. So 2414 and 2415 are both under budgeted for overtime every single year. And that is not necessarily a pandemic ordeal. It's just the number of employees and the mandatory overtime that civilians get on the clock working a 12-hour shift. So this is the adjustment to make that correct, or as correct as we can make it. I'm ready for 15. 15 is right there. So you'll see an increase in the supply line here, and that money is money that is coming from 2414 to try and balance that. Furniture and equipment, we're asking for a little bit more money there, $2,456 more than last year for some portable O2 concentrator, scanner, and a blood pressure monitor. And then the management services, this is the other half of that contract for Core Health that I had stated on the previous department. It does exist in both, and you will also see the overtime up top increase 53,767 to cover that mandatory overtime that LVNs and RNs work on the 12-hour rotational shift at the facility.
How long are we, in for with the Core Health contract?
So for a year is what y'all signed,
I can try to pull up the contract.
is what I believe.
I'm just, so this budget will get us through that contract.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right,
And then we'll evaluate.
yeah. Okay,
All right, Haley, gonna do capital next. Let's go capital.
Move into capital outlay. So these are items, equipment, vehicles that exceed $5,000.
Okay, we're still at the top, I see that. Our maintenance of equipment shop runs our wash bay for us for all of our vehicles in the county as well, not just sheriff's office vehicles. And they go through these little Home Depot, Harbor Freight, whatever, pressure washers on a pretty regular basis. They're not sustainable for the amount of vehicles and the amount of usage that they get out of the thing. So this is our maintenance of equipment shop asking for a legitimate commercial grade pressure washing system that has a real warranty, real service, and can withstand the volume of vehicles that we're out there at our county shop. The next one is canines, and if y'all have additional questions, we have Captain Eubank here. We're asking for 2 canines to purchase for our patrol division to equalize those shifts out with those canine enforcement officers. Next is going to be a night vision adapter for a camera. This was requested by our OCU guys, our undercover guys, and their number one ask was every operation, surveillance, all the major crimes, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, that they're engaging in. They don't have any ability to take any of these pictures at night for evidentiary purposes, and they would like to have this to be able to get that. And that is just an adapter for the camera that they already have that exists. The next line down is night vision system. Those are helmet mounted for SWAT team. Last year, we brought to the court's attention that our SWAT team had 0 night vision capabilities, and the court was generous enough to provide us with 4 night vision systems for our SWAT team, and this will help us continue that mission to get at least our entry team fully outfitted. Of course, we don't want to do them all in 1 year. We don't want to do them all in, we want to space that out so as these things come up with their 15-year retentions, we can replace them not all in 1 year.
so this gets you how many?
This will give us a total of 8.
Okay. So,
How many is this?
This is 4.
okay.
This is 4. And this is the system, and there's a little mount. We didn't separate it, but there's a bracket, there's a mount, there's a monopupillar, something I don't understand. But there's other little pieces to it, but that is these systems, 4 total systems as they are. They're all identical, and they're identical to the ones we purchased last year.
Mouse to a weapon or a mouse
Mouse to
to
your
a
helmet.
device?
To your helmet.
To your helmet, okay.
These are what the entry team guys use when we make entry into these houses.
Right.
And it gives us a huge advantage to be able to operate in total darkness when
Right.
the bad guys can't. So, next on the list is the security camera system. So we have a system at our sheriff's office that is at least 12 years old. It is completely failed. Half of the cameras don't work right. We just need a new security system. And this is a quote for that. We've had a couple of incidents pretty recently, which if y'all wanted to get into an executive session, I'm sure we could for security purposes, not disclosing sensitive security information. But we need that system. We have some problems. Next is going to be the org box for existing crime scene unit. So this is a organization system that's a lot like the vault systems that go in the back of our Tahoes, but it's larger in that it completely eliminates the back seat. our technicians that are starting to go to actual crime scenes to do the evidence collection, much like what Waco PD does with their evidence techs, crime scene techs. They need the storage for equipment, devices, bags, all the different things that those evidence collection people have to carry, and that is just the entire back of the already existing vehicle that we need to get that storage. Next, I'm gonna do the tilting skillet first. That's the jail's request. We have a tilting skillet at the jail that needs to be replaced, and we had mentioned that to the court several sessions back in regards to we were making a request for that in the budget. And this is that request. The thing has been repaired and repaired and repaired by maintenance. It can no longer be duct taped back together. It needs to be replaced. And that is the quote for that. And the next thing is gonna be fleet. So you'll notice we have 3 lines for fleet. We are asking for 1 jail transport Suburban. That is simply for the capacity. We just need 3rd row. We are asking for 14 patrol Tahoes and 1 unmarked vehicle. And the total cost of all of our capital requests within this budget, including fleet, is $1,298,998.
So what does that have your rolling stock inventory at? Are we compared to the prior year?
We are not increasing the size of our fleet, if that is your question. But this does maintain the 8-vehicle rollover that we, our 16-vehicle rollover, 8-year retention on our vehicles. So when we get rid of vehicles, they're high mileage, so they usually become maintenance problems
Right, yeah, I understand.
long before we get rid of them.
Just to remind everyone, including myself, what is our turnover policy? What are we trying to stick to? You say every 4 years?
8 years. 8 years retention on a vehicle. Yes, sir.
Oh, 8, okay, per vehicle.
That gives us an 8-year fleet rollover is what it gives us.
Okay, gotcha.
We can roll over our fleet every 8 years, so we don't have any vehicle that's more than a decade old.
Right.
And we do have some information in regards to like services that we can certainly talk about with the court. You know, looking at mileage, looking at vehicles that have been wrecked and how they become huge maintenance issues, even if they're newer vehicles. So there's certainly aspects that we take into consideration when we're trying to pick what we're trying to get rid of. We're certainly trying to get rid of the things that aren't tenable, that have high mileage, and that have horrible maintenance problems. So we definitely try to vet all of those things. It's not necessarily just the oldest vehicle. It's the vehicle that is giving us the majority of issues or has major problems or has upcoming problems due to bad fuel mileage that we can tend to anticipate. So, any questions on capital or fleet?
Questions, anyone?
And 0115, do y'all ladies want to go over 01? That's
No.
courthouse.
Yeah, there's a courthouse security fund, a special revenue fund. There's no change between years, but we'll cover that when we go over special revenue funds.
Okay.
Next on the list, we're going to personnel. We have a very short list for personnel this year.
There's that question.
Yes, your question that you asked earlier will be, I think, on the top of that list.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to give Haley just a second.
And while we're pulling that up, David will go through the request, and then Anna will follow up tomorrow or Friday and give her recommendations on this list as well.
All right. So we'll start at the top, positional changes. The first one is being requested by MOE. This is for position number, or is in relation to position number 1005 and 433. We have 2 electronics technicians that exist out there at MOE. They have the same job description. They were hired with the same job description. They have the same job duties. They are responsible for the same activities. But one of them makes $6,951 less than the other one. And we are asking for the ability to raise the budget for that one guy's salary, which is position 1005, to match the other. And Captain Nixon isn't even necessarily saying that we want to immediately move him to that. But he wants the availability when his talent, skill set, certifications get there to be able to provide him with the same salary that the guy that's working right beside him makes doing the same job. To me, I don't have any more comments on that, other than that, on that specific position.
You know, I would say, I looked at the position summary, essential job functions, limitations, disclaimer, education required, preferred, skills, experience for the 2 positions, and they're exactly, word to word, identical. Yet there's that much discrepancy between the 2 positions. And of course, my question would be, how did that happen?
That's a good question. So,
Previous manager.
This happened before MOE was under us, this individual was hired. Both these individuals are on call 24/7. They have to go out to tower sites, weekends, nights. They have to go to the jail weekends, nights. They both do the same job.
Exactly.
And they're indispensable as far as the experience that they have. It takes 2-3 years to train for these individuals to work on all the different camera systems we have, all the different intercom systems we have, the towers we have. And, you know, we really want to get this guy up where he's making the right money to be able to keep him, because we can't replace him.
Not overnight.
not for 44,000.
Yeah, it just kind of surprised me a little bit, that difference when they're doing exactly the same thing.
Has Anna looked at that?
She has. And if y'all want her to speak about it now.
Anna, do you have looked at that?
Yes, I have, and it is one of the positions HR is recommending an adjustment for, based on that parity issue David's pointed out. Our recommendation is to bring it to a comp ratio of 1, which is lower than the other position mentioned. I'm not sure how the other position got to that other salary.
Okay,
But we can discuss that when personnel's up.
all right, thank you.
All right, the next thing that we are asking for is within our CID department for our environmental crimes. We were contacted by the city of Waco, and they started this conversation about these positions. Our litter abatement guys that are on contract with them, they discussed with us, raises, salary increases, or just promotional. These guys are investigators. They investigate 2,437 environmental crimes for the city of Waco on contract every year, which leads to the disposal of over 1 million pounds of trash. So our contingent is that we want to raise these guys up to corporal investigator. 100% of their salary is paid by the city of Waco. The city of Waco will not meet until after we are done. The asterisk beside this is if the city of Waco does not approve it and agree to contractually pay them that amount, they will not get it. So that's a pretty simple deal. If the city wants to pay them that, we'd like them to have it.
Okay,
Next, moving on. These are a couple of jail positions that we have. And once again, all these things that we're talking about right now, we are not asking for any additional slots. That has not happened yet. These are all just existing things. Major Whitlock and her command staff are wanting to take 2 jail slots that exist at 2410 and convert those 2 positions to jail corporals. These are the people who are our TAC, assistant TAC and master TAC, terminal agency coordinator. They do all of our TLETs, CGIS, compliance. They do all the training, not just for the sheriff's office, but for anyone that's on the TLETs, inlets, CGIS system in the entire county. If your clerk's on it, they're getting training from our people. They are responsible to our people to make sure that they are doing all of the appropriate CGIS awareness security training. They have to check and audit all that. So they are doing these things for not just the sheriff's office, managing them, but also for other departments. And they have the title of jailer. And we needed to have some level of supervisory authority in order to write the policies that they write, do the things that they do. And we have a very long list of those things that we have turned into HR. It is 15 pages for each one of those individuals as far as what those specific duties are. And all we're asking for is that convert those slot to jail corporals so they'll have some authority when they're doing the training, implementation, holding people accountable for violations. A big thing too is the security. If you've ever walked around our facilities, all the red signs that say you're entering a CGIS secure facility, because there's a terminal that exists in there. Terminals exist all over the county. You have them in this courthouse, and they're the ones who audit those physical locations, ensure that we are up to spec with CGIS security standards. They are the ones making those decisions, doing those audits, and engaging that work. And that's what we're asking for those 2 slots at 2410. All right, next. So the first one down here on new positions is a positional request with a giveaway. It's not a straight request. Lieutenant Warnett that sits right beside me runs our personnel division, and for years and years, we have had someone from the jail, a jailer, that has worked in our personnel division doing backgrounds, app processing, background investigations is the main part of their time. We want to make that person and actually bring that person to Department 2200. We want to make them a background investigator, just like the other people that are working in the office with them. So in the request, what we'll be doing is be giving up position 1366 in Department 2411, and then we would be asking for a new unnumbered position within 2200. Any questions?
Any questions?
All right. The last position. So we are asking for a new investigator slot within our OCU division. And this is a contrived thing to talk about in open court, of course, because these are undercover guys, and I want to be, careful what I say. These guys worked in 2021, 157 undercover investigations, the large amount of which goes into surveillance. These guys are the guys that are doing big community impact stuff. And when I say that, I'm talking about the $500,000 worth of meth that got popped, that was all in the newspaper and all over the news. That's these guys, in coordination with the TAG. 80% of the cases these guys work are proactive, preventative in nature, not reactive. Doesn't matter if it's surveillance, CI buys. These guys are the guys that are producing large community impact cases that require surveillance, CIs, just a ton of labor, and they just desperately need help. They've been very successful in the TAG. If y'all have followed the news, whether it be removing guns, murder weapons used in City of Waco murders, drugs from near and around schools in large quantities. These are big community impact guys, and they desperately need this position in order to be able to produce these fantastic results for the community. So that is the only straight positional ask that we have.
Any questions anyone have? Okay.
So, yeah, y'all want us to go over the 2414 and 2415, just the cleanup of the personnel? That was on here? You had it on your sheet? No?
No, 'cause we already.
That's it?
Thank y'all very much.
If y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can with whatever information you want.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
See y'all.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Just trying to. Taking one?
Okay.
Taking a break, or you say you're weak?
You want a break?
Anybody need a break?
I'm good right now.
Okay.
So you've,
I thought we were through. If we're not through, I might want that break.
We can do it. We're close to through. I tell you, I'm close to through. I don't know about everybody else. We can still meet, but I might not be. Totally plugged in. Okay, Francis, you wanna cover
so
this?
that sums up, of course, requests for the sheriff's office. So our next moves are, tomorrow morning. We're posted for 9:00 a.m. So we need to go through capital projects, our permanent improvement fund. So TJ will be with us to go through those. They're pretty minimal. We'll also take a look at what permanent improvement funds we're sitting on right now. So some of the latest bond issuances, just to kind of get a grasp of what projects are currently ongoing, what's being asked for next year. And then we'll look at IT, the IT department. So she will go over her operating budget increases, capital outlay, but also the IT assessments list. So that one's a little bit larger than in the years past, but she'll cover that and the need for that. And then after lunch, we have Ralph Wallace with TCDRS. And then we can circle back to capital outlay. You've heard about most of those. By this time, there's I think one still remaining. But for the most part, if y'all want to come back and discuss any of that, give us any guidance. But then we're ready then to move into personnel. So we can start that early tomorrow and get going on that with Anna from HR.
Right.
Of course, we're scheduled to come back on Friday too as well. So those are the things that we have left on our to-do list for this week. There's some things that we still need to chisel away at, contracted programs, the economic development department, those types of things. And we'll come back to those. We have those entities scheduled to come in that third week of July. So starting the week of the 19th is the Tuesday. So we'll have those coming in and speaking with you, and you can make those final decisions. But just to kind of give you a glimpse of where we're at. So, we can start looking at the big picture when y'all are ready. I know we need to hear from HR on recommendations for personnel matters, but then we're ready just to start plugging those things in and show you where we're at. So today, not unless you want to get into some personnel matters. I know Anna is ready if you want to do that today, but we can always, like I said, begin tomorrow.
What do y'all
What
want?
would we do today if we didn't do personnel?
We can talk about what we just heard as far as the sheriff's office goes, if y'all have any feeling there, maybe about their operating request, capital outlay.
Whatever we talk about this afternoon, we wouldn't have to talk about on Friday, huh? If we did HR?
That is correct.
If we go ahead and do HR right now?
That's, again, just, we're on y'all's schedule, so.
No, we're still scheduled on the 19th at 1 for the nonprofits, is that right?
Yes, so that week of Tuesday the 19th, we'll have a regular agenda and then go however long that takes, go straight into budget workshops again, just like we did this week. But yes, we've scheduled some of those outside entities to start coming in that afternoon.
I think, prior to that, and it can be, tomorrow or Friday, is that we got a pretty good idea about, where we're going there, and so, but before you get into nonprofits, in other words, more that I would call, to a certain extent, discretionary, that we get a good idea about where we are, what it's gonna take to meet, goals that have been stated in regards to, where we want to be tax rate wise. So, I think that would help us a lot, like tomorrow, maybe,
Perfect.
towards the end of the day. We've heard all the big ask, the big impact things that we're gonna have to deal with. COLA and Sheriff's Department request and capital. And then that would get us in the kind of be prepared to talk about things that are discretionary.
So we can definitely start tomorrow, like you said, look at the big picture, plug in some of those high-cost items, COLA, the changes
I'm not gonna be here tomorrow afternoon
Okay,
and Friday.
okay. Let's try to figure, before we recess for lunch tomorrow, let's spend like an hour before we get, let's talk about the snapshot and kind of where it looks like we're gonna shake out. Because I like to do that while Commissioner Jones is
And
here.
we could, all of our departments are always so flexible. We could do those heavier topics early and move IT and permanent improvement to
Yeah,
later.
okay. That'd be fine.
Commissioner Jones can,
Yeah,
we'll get with them.
Are we to
When we
the
head
point
out
where
here.
you can, if, and I'll call it a wish list, to plug in every department, every office's wish list, if there was nothing backed out, and see what that looks like?
And so that's where we're looking at, that's what you're looking at when you look at that spreadsheet right now.
So that was my question. What is baked into the spreadsheet right now?
So it is all request. So when you look at the main summary on the spreadsheet, and Haley will share so you can see what we're looking at. This is all requests we've received. We have started, of course, going through those. The sheriff's office presented theirs today. Any of those requests, all capital outlay, they are in that number, that total expenditures line, the 140 million. And so, I know, was it yesterday? What day of the week is it? Yesterday, we had looked at a couple things that we had adjusted. We talked through the library a little bit. No decision, of course, made on that. But we adjusted that. There were some adjustments we made to the McPups and that road cleanup line. But all of those things to date have been rolled up there. So the only thing that's not in there that you need to make decisions on are COLA, additional personnel and personnel increases. What the jail, oh, sorry, go ahead.
What did the estimated beginning fund balance, the one I'm looking at?
The 72. We have found an error made in one of those spreadsheets, so we have adjusted that, but we'll be adjusting that throughout. So that has changed as well since yesterday.
so the 72.7 is not correct, or is
Yes,
correct?
that's as of right now.
Okay,
When we start looking at where July ended up, we'll be making some other adjustments to what we project to spend this year. So that number's a little bit ever changing, but yes, that's as of this moment in time, right? This one.
At this moment in time?
Yes.
It's 57, 415, 487? Is that what you're saying? Ending
So
balance?
so go up to where it says 72 million, that one. So that's what we're looking at right now is where we hope, that's where we estimate to start next year.
With that-
September 30th,
With 72,000,
Correct.
72 million
correct,
fund balance?
correct.
And
So then that number right below, I'll kind of back up a little bit, that number below total revenues, that includes the no new revenue rate as it is right now.
right there.
Correct. And then moving down that 140 million, that is all request, all operating request included there. And so that's where we show we would end up with that fund balance of 57 million.
Okay, which would be 41.6%.
Yes, and so then below the line, then that's where you need to make, most of these decisions are personnel related, but personnel request, increases to personnel COLA, the request they just made with the jailer changes, incentive pay, anything you change for benefits or leave accruals, if there's a cost associated with that, any changes to TCDRS you might make. So those are the things that we need. Those are the things that would fall below. So those are the only things that we do not have baked into that expenditures number.
So as we,
Go ahead, Judge.
well, so as we start filling in those start dropping off of that, into that 57,
If you scroll down to the
start eroding into it.
Yes, sir.
Tentatively, 46 million would be roughly the 33%, correct?
Yes, yes. Is there another line at the bottom? Yeah, so that, you'll see there that 45.5. As we change it, we may need to adjust here and there, but that will give you an idea of what 33% would look like.
It's about to be the year I have to buy glasses, dadgummit.
And as you add a COLA, then of course that target fund balance grows because you're taking 33% of that COLA. So, but that as we add those pieces, that formula will pick up those increases.
Couple things. Number one of the things I'd like to consider, or like the court to consider, would be if we were able to pay out some kind of cost of living adjustment prior to the end of this budget year. All right? And then if we did that, would we then subtract that from what we originally maybe had in mind for next year? Would we even that out? I mean, or would we do that and talk about the,
Could we though, I guess would be the first question.
could we do a cost of living this year?
So you could budget for some sort of allowance, like, inflation allowance, cost of living allowance.
Legally, for this year? We could do that, right, for our employees this year?
So
Dustin, well, go ahead. Frank.
elected
Elected official
officials are
can't.
different,
No,
yes.
No, we're not
So
talking
they-
about elected officials, we're talking about salaried.
Like I said, maybe some legal issues that we'd have to, like you said, I know you called on Dustin to kind of iron out there, but whatever, on that note, we can touch on the technicalities there, but if you do decide to pay for something in this year, move it out of next year's budget and move it into this year's, it's going to affect either your beginning fund balance or your ending.
Yeah.
So it would be, the end result would be the same.
I guess where I was looking at theoretically, and I'm just throwing out numbers, don't get me wrong, this, I'm not. Okay, next year we wanted to do a 10% COLA, just out of curiosity. But do a 5 this year, then that would make it a 5 next year as opposed to a 10 next year. So that there would be some immediate relief for employees who are at the crunch right now. That was my question.
And Commissioner,
Sir?
sorry.
No, go right ahead.
We'd actually visited with Mike about this earlier today. So Mike's thoughts are if it's prospective, meaning that it's going forward and it's in the October 1st budget, that does not violate the Constitution. But if we came back and just gave a one-time payment this year that's not in our budget, he did not feel like that would be allowable.
Even if
But if we wanted to do
a budget,
right, because it would not be it's not a prospective payment. It would be a payment for work you're already doing, basically. So he did not feel like that would be allowable, but one that was in the budget starting October 1st would be.
has he checked with any other county that's done it to see how they made it legal?
We can do it we can check for sure and see.
One thing, the statute says, you can't front employees' money for work that
Right.
hasn't been done yet. So like he's saying, I think that plays into that as well.
And if it's not, it's not. Just a thought.
Okay, I think there's two budget amendments
Yes.
that we haven't.
Yes, so we can kind of change gears a little bit. So yesterday, there were two budget amendments that we held. We have that information now, so just so we can get those cleaned up and don't have to defer, I'd like to go over those real quick.
That was on yesterday's agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So F1A.
F1A.
F1A was a budget amendment for the 414th District Court. And they're just requesting to move within their department an amount in, excuse me, $69 into travel for visiting judges.
How much?
$69.
Okay.
Just moving to clean up lines to cover a reimbursement request from a visiting judge.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
And then F1N is a certification of revenue and related budget amendment. I'm certifying the proceeds from our last auction. The proceeds are $83,186. This amount of money was directly attributable to equipment that was being utilized by the Maintenance of Buildings Department. So they're requesting to increase capital outlay by that same amount so that they can purchase a, shoot.
Brand new car.
It is a Caterpillar. I'm so sorry, y'all. Let me get the exact.
What number are we in? What number? F1?
F1N.
And Marcy's looking at that as well. Didn't,
I have an F1.
It's
there
a-
not discussion last year, the year before, on proceeds received from auctions?
Yeah.
And where it goes?
One, yeah,
So-
it's like you request for a new piece of equipment. You don't say, because I sold this can happen. You make it two different. You accept the money from the proceeds. That's the way it has to go to the general fund. Then, if there's budget, you buy a new piece of equipment. They're not, otherwise, what was happening is, well, the worst abuse is when the sale of the equipment came and it stayed in that, group, and then they used it to just make a down payment or a lease on a huge piece of equipment that we took on a bunch of liability, and so we said, it's confused, we can't keep track of it, so let's stop doing that. Let's take that money into the general fund as the law says, and then if they wanna buy a piece of equipment, that's a different request altogether. They have nothing to do with each other. I mean,
So all
it's like
revenue.
over budgeting positions. That's the same way I feel about over budgeting positions.
So all revenue that comes in general fund, including auction proceeds, goes into the general fund. It's for general fund
it,
use.
yeah.
Doesn't matter, there's no revenue pigeonholed in the general fund for anybody. It is general fund use. And that's why we have special revenue funds set up, because revenue does come in that is specific for things,
Yeah.
and we hold those in those other funds. So the budget laws say that you can only increase the budget above the total you've budgeted at the beginning of the year through the budget process if the auditor certifies the revenue and says that this is revenue that we did not anticipate, we did not estimate at the beginning of the year, or you can increase the budget for grant proceeds, bond proceeds, debt issuances. So this falls in that certification. So I say, yes, we did not estimate this. This was not included. We did get this. And then someone is requesting then to set up a new budget for the use of those funds.
So what was sold again?
So
Was it the same type of equipment that they wanna buy?
it was a motor grader, a truck, and a John Deere loader.
Where?
So that was
So those
equipment
items-
that somebody's road and bridge crew gave to them to use out at the lake, I think.
Oh, is that the lake stuff? Is that the
Yeah.
lake? I was like,
What's
wait,
it with a motor grader?
what are they
And so-
doing?
And so they're asking to use that to purchase then this, I know Reagan had sent this out yesterday.
One of y'all.
It's a Caterpillar compact construction loader. It's a,
Compact construction equipment.
I guess, Francis, what I wanna know,
E3.
do we
There's
treat
that
everybody,
picture.
do we treat everybody the same though? Does every department that has
I think so.
equipment that goes into,
So, you know, we auction off a lot of equipment, and we only do this when someone requests it. So I normally would never certify anything unless, you know, someone said, hey, we need to use these funds, we sold these items, we need to get something to replace them. And so, yes, but anytime anyone's brought something forward, y'all have usually been consistent about that. The other thing about certifying revenue is, you know, like you said, it's two processes. So I certify the revenue. You could say, we're gonna set up a budget for the auditor's office. I mean, there's no, when you certify that, it doesn't, the way that revenue came in and the use of it don't have to correlate.
Right,
Um,
because it goes to general fund.
correct. So you're just increasing the budget, increasing revenue and increasing budget. If that,
So, what about a trade-in? How do you handle that?
so if you approve to trade in a piece of equipment, you have to approve it. No cash is actually coming in the door, but once you approve it, that allows a department to take that and use it to discard of that without going through the normal process that is
Okay.
mandated, by going through auction or something.
All right,
But of
This is
course,
for a
we,
new skid steer.
yeah.
thank you, Commissioner Jones.
That's great.
I
So,
still don't know.
so what are we doing right now?
What about Skid Heifer?
Okay, so certifying revenue in the amount of $83,186, that was auction revenue for the auction of 3 pieces of equipment that Maintenance of Buildings is currently using. They are requesting to increase capital outlay by that same amount in order to purchase this skid steer.
Caterpillar.
Caterpillar.
Made by Caterpillar,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a Caterpillar skid steer.
Skid steer. Okay, okay. I understand skid steer. That is right. Yeah, they make, yeah, a lot of those out on, you see them everywhere.
They're
now.
very handy.
Amen.
Oh, yeah. Made
Put a lot of different.
Needed out there.
Put a lot of different equipment on them,
equipment,
really.
that's right. All right, so what are we gonna do?
Motion to approve.
second?
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Okay.
Anything else?
That is all I have. If y'all are interested, oh, yes, we had pulled some information on fuel. I know David had shown some stuff too, but this was just pulling what has been spent over this year for this current year, each month for each grouping. So, you know, road and bridge, law enforcement, and then other. This is just cost. So, you know, going into and really extracting information as far as what, you know, the cost is increasing, but how is the mileage they're driving changing? And so that's something, you know, we just talked about this yesterday. We'll need some time to compile that and put that together. But this at least just kind of showed you how that cost has changed, and how it changes from month to month depending on the department and the use of it, so. And like you said, Judge, you know, that's something that we may want to have a really in-depth discussion and look at some point here in the future.
Okay,
So we'll just continue to work at pulling that data.
Something I forgot to ask David, surely they're just using regular unleaded in those. Right.
They are.
Yes.
Yep.
So there's some security on the cards that prevent certain,
Right,
so yes.
okay.
And we double check those too when we receive the bills. So tomorrow, or y'all, do you want us to try to kind of change some things around if people are able to do that so that we can talk about personnel earlier in the day?
Yeah.
And if Anna is available, of course,
right.
so that we can all be together for that.
Sure.
Okay,
I
we'll
can be
try-
ready for that.
Thank you, Anna. So we'll work with those other departments and we'll just
Okay,
make the day work as best as it can.
okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
No,
That's
Judge,
as
I
far
think-
as you know, we handled everything?
Yes, sir. On E3A, that's the IT director spot. We approved the item. That was a separate item on the agenda for that recommendation committee. But we pulled this item, but I think we can just notate it as no action taken and be fine.
Okay, pull, no action. All right. Anything else? And, so tomorrow's a new posting, so we'll adjourn this meeting.
I have a quick question about the meeting on the 19th. And let me know, Dustin, we have a public hearing on that date.
That's right, for the Emergency Services District.
And so I guess we'll knock that out of the way first thing, or what, have you given that any thought, or?
Yes, sir. So it's scheduled for 9 a.m. So we would need to do it right at the start of the meeting.
Okay, so it is scheduled for 9 a.m.
Yes, sir.
All right, great.
Okay. All right, we stand adjourned.